Okay, welcome everyone. Happy Mother's Day to everyone out there. Today we're going to continue working on our hip series. So we'll do the warm up, the different hip movements, and then get into a bit of the hip series with some core work, and maybe also finish off with a nice long cobbler pose. Help stretch out the hips. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Sit on your mats, grab your hands behind your knees, and roll out your spine. Slowly come down to settle. Even here we can do a few imprint and arch, just starting to loosen up our backs. Then draw one leg up, the other leg up. You can cross your hands over your knees or behind your knees. Right hand on top of left. And we'll start with some pulsing. Remember to engage your feet, squeeze your knees and your ankles together. And we can start going side to side, rocking the hips. And then we can let those start turning into circles. Once again, remembering to keep our knees, ankles, toes, or toe joints touching. And then coming to center, stopping for a second, release the legs up, switch the grip of the hands, left hand on top of right, start doing circles the other way. Remember to engage our feet, squeeze the knees and thighs together. Let that go on to side to side. Coming back to some pulsing. Then exhale, nice tight squeeze the legs into the chest, and take a deep breath, pushing your belly into your thighs. One more big breath. And then release your hands and your feet back down to the floor. And we keep going with some hip warm up. So walk your feet out to the edge of your mat. Slightly pigeon-toed, and bring your knees together. And from here, we'll once again do a couple of big belly breaths. So exhale, breath in. One more big breath, and then we can release. You can let the knees go apart, walk the feet back to hip width. And we rock out an imprint and an arch, imprint and an arch. Then we'll do a little bit more of the breathing in hip stretch. So this time we'll get into the creeper pose. So this, bring your feet and knees together and let your knees go wide. We can just rock them back and forth a couple times to warm them up. really pushing your big toe joint or mound into the floor. And when your big toe joint starts to come up, that's the limit on how far you should let your knees go in and out. And this time, just let them go out wide. Take a natural breath. And we'll do a few rounds of breathing into the ribs. So you can bring your hands up to your ribs for some sensitivity. Gauge the belly lock, belly button down towards the pelvis, stomach up and under the ribs. Exhale. And take a deep breath into the ribs. Are you keeping your big toe joints stuck to the floor, pushing into your feet? Keeping the belly lock engaged as we breathe up into the ribs. 2 more big breaths. And release, let your hands go wide, bring your knees back together, walk your feet hip width and knees hip width apart again. Take a couple of natural breaths. All right, and this time we'll clap our feet together and let our knees go wide into cobbler pose. Once again, squeezing those feet together, making sure there's contact with the big toe mound, the toes themselves, pushing the heels together. Even here, we can put our elbows down, lift our back, stretch it away from our hips, bring our hands up gently behind our head, stretch our neck out, and lay our head down gently. Once again, bring your hands by your sides. A couple of natural breaths. All right, now for the next round of breathing, we're going to breathe up into our upper chest. So you can bring your hands up to your chest for sensitivity as you want. We want to engage the belly lock first, and then we want to feel like we're pulling our front ribs down towards our pelvis. And then take a big exhale. And inhale up into the ribs, or into the chest. Can you feel breath coming into the space between your shoulder blades? Can you feel your collarbone expanding? You still have good engagement in your feet, pressing together, big toe mounds, heels, even lining up the toes together. All right, 2 more big breaths into the chest. And release. You can use your hands, gently draw your legs back together, feet and knees our side. And just take a couple natural breaths. Alright, so we've already been doing a bit of the motion of the hips with the imprint and arch. We'll continue, we'll do a couple more, another round of imprint and arch. Imprint and arch. I like to put my thumbs on my hips so I can really feel those hips rolling back and forth. Try to imagine that I'm keeping them in the same plane, that the left side or the right side isn't hiking up. These last few, you can really see if you can lift your tailbone when you imprint. Maybe hold it a little bit, stretch out that lower back. And release. Alright, once again, we'll just stretch our low back and our neck out. So elbows down, hands by the sides, hands up. Push into your elbows, lift your back away from your pelvis. Bring your hands up to the back of your head. Gently stretch out your neck. Lay down your head. And then you bring back your arms back down by your sides. Next range of movement will be the teeter-totter on the hip. So we can start with right hip up, left hip pushing into the floor, vice versa, left hip up, right hip pushing into the floor. When we do this, our knees are going to move a little bit, but we don't want our knees going all wiggly wobbly. So slowly and under control, lifting one hip up while you push the other one into the floor, going back and forth. This time when you bring up your right side, lift up the right side and hold. Really push the left side down in. And we're going to work on a little trick to engage the ribs and back ribs. So we take our hand, just lightly cup it and place it behind our ribs on the right side. And we want to push that right ribs, back right ribs into that hand. So cup the hand, put it in behind the ribs on the right side, and now push into that hand lightly with the ribs while you are maintaining the teeter-totter in your hips. Now here, I'll show it on the left side, just make it easier to see in case people are confused. So once again, now left, this time right hip is down, left is up. Cup the left hand, put it underneath the back ribs on the left side, and then lightly push down with the ribs while continuing to lift with the hips. I hope you guys are still on your right side. Okay, we'll release and then everybody can switch to the left side. Keep that engagement. You really have to push through your feet, keeping your big toe mounds down. Push the right hip down into the floor. Engage the muscles around those front floating ribs to push the back ribs into the hand. natural breaths. Alright, so once again, before we start the last motion of the hips, we'll stretch our low back out. So bring our elbows down, hands up, push into the elbows, lift the back away from the hips. So bring the hands to the back of the head, gently stretch out the neck and lay the head down. Bring our hands by our sides, and so for the last motion, it is the hip towards the, one hip goes towards the ankle while the other hip goes towards the shoulder. So we can start with right hip towards the ankle, left hip towards the shoulder, and then just go back and forth. Once again, the knees are going to move a little bit, but we want to keep them under control as much as possible. So by pushing our feet strongly into the floor, helps us to keep our knees stable while we're doing this movement. Wow, this one's tight for me today. Once again, if you want, you can bring your thumbs to your hip to kind of track the movement. Try to keep it on the level plane. Keep the movement even on the left and the right side. And this time we can bring the right side down, left side up to hold. Take some deep, full breaths, letting that breath go from right down into the hips and all the way up into the collarbones. And we'll do 3 big breaths on this side and then switch. Exhale and switch. Remember to keep pushing your feet into the floor to keep your knees stable. Three big breaths on this side. Left hip down, right hip up towards the shoulder. Exhale and release. Alright, we're going to keep going nice long wind reliever pose, but once again we'll stretch out our lower back and our neck by bringing our elbows by our side, hands up, pushing our elbows into the floor, lifting our low back away from our pelvis, bringing the hands to the back of the head, lifting, stretching, gently pushing it back down, then pushing into the left foot. We'll bring the right foot up. We can cross the hands, right hand over left, and go over the knee or behind the knee, whichever is more comfortable. If you're behind the knee, you can really focus on using your elbow strength and your shoulder strength to pull your elbows away. So there's actually a lot of finger strength holding your fingers together. And then just slowly, slowly pull that leg in. And we'll take a couple of big belly breaths to really stretch into our hips. So Really push your belly into your thigh. Big belly breaths. We want to check that we're keeping a relatively neutral spine. We'll probably be pushing a bit into an imprint, but you want to imagine that you're moving towards a neutral spine. Now, can you imagine that you are pushing your leg into your right hand, and your right hand is pushing back into your leg, but it's not actually moving. We're using a lot of force, strength, pushing the two together. And now we're going to let the leg win, and we're going to push our whole leg out to the right slowly. Keep pushing your hand into your leg and leg into your hand, but you let your leg be stronger and let your leg go out towards the right. Once again, to keep your hips balanced and level, really push into the floor with that left foot. Keep pushing the leg and the arm together. And now we're going to start letting the arm win. Slowly pushing that leg back to center, but still pushing back with the leg. Pushing back. And now we're going to take it across center to the left, but still pushing that leg back into the hand into the leg. It's just the hand's a bit stronger now. Keep breathing, keep pushing that left foot into the floor to engage your hips and keep your hips even. All right, and now the leg is going to win again. We're going to push back to center. No, the leg is winning because you're pushing your leg into your right hand, and now you're pushing it back to center. Give it a squeeze, and we'll release. Let our arms come by our side. Take a couple deep breaths. Is everybody understanding the engagement between the leg and the arm?
Kind of. I mean, I do, but just because I've been going to Michelle's for so long.
Sometimes it's a little confusing between the pushing and the pulling.
I find the idea of creating resistance with a hand while pushing out, like that, creating resistance and pushing against resistance. But that explains it to me.
Alright, well, we're going to now go draw that right leg back in. Once again, crossing, this time we'll cross the left hand over the right, behind the knee. We'll pull it in nice and close, take a couple big belly breaths. And this time we're going to create that dynamic tension with our left arm. So pushing the left arm into the leg pushing back into the left arm. Once again, the left leg pushing into the floor, or the left foot pushing into the floor to keep our hips even on the ground. Now we're going going to once again let the leg win, so the leg is going to push the hand across to the left side of the body, but the left hand is going to continue pushing into that leg, maintaining that dynamic tension. Oh, this one's definitely more challenging for me than pushing it on the right with the right hand. Alright, now we're going to keep that dynamic tension, but bring it back to center. And now we're going to go keep the dynamic tension while going out to the right.
I wish my arms were longer.
It's your long torso. Alright, now maintaining that tension, bring it back to center. Let go of the tension, squeeze that leg in a little bit. And as we release it slowly, we'll bring the thigh up to perpendicular and do a shin lift, just to release a little bit. And then holding the leg up as best we can, we'll do a bit of a screwdriver. Internal rotation right in the hip socket. We're not trying to twist our knees, we're not trying to twist our ankles, we're trying to twist right in the hip socket. And then you can flex your knee, bringing it across the left leg into a figure 4. Make sure you have your ankle hooked outside of your left thigh. Engage your feet to protect your knee. Take a deep breath and relax. If you're feeling a bit tired, having your period, maybe just stay here. Otherwise, you can bring it in and grab behind the left knee. And we can release. Slowly let the left foot down. Bring the knee, right knee over our chest. Release. We do another shin lift or 2 on that side. Slowly bring that right leg down. And we'll walk our feet and our knees together. And let our legs go into the creeper pose. Can you notice the difference between your left side and right side? Does the right side feel more relaxed, more loose, stronger, maybe? Remember to keep the big toe mounds engaged, pushing them together, pushing them into the floor. breath, and then we draw our knees together. And walk your knees and feet hip width apart. Once again, before we get into the left side, we'll stretch out our lower back on our neck, so pushing our elbows into the floor by our sides, lifting our back up, lifting it away from the hips. Slowly bring the hands to the back of the head, stretch the neck, lay it down gently. Bring our hands by our side again. See if I can remember everything on the left side. Alright, we'll draw that left knee in for wind reliever. Cross our hands behind the knee. Left hand on top of right. And we'll draw that leg into our belly by pulling our elbows apart, squeezing our fingers together, creating some dynamic tension. Drawing that leg in. Now we'll take some big belly breaths, stretching into the hips.
Do we push back with the leg at this point?
Yes, you can.
Are the fingers interlocked?
Yes.
Interlaced.
And yeah, when your fingers interlace, I find it also helps to like keep the thumbs together.
Right.
That helps me to create that dynamic tension in the arms.
That's where I was getting confused about the like left hand over right.
Oh, right.
Versus,
So left fingers, which, so for your pointer finger,
yeah.
right, so left on top of right, pointer finger, or right on top of left with the pointer finger. That's the way I keep track of it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, of
Right.
course. Thank you.
Yes. Haha, thank you for asking the questions, helping me to clarify.
Yes.
So once again, now with the left finger crossed over top, tap the thumbs together behind the knee. Big belly breaths, knee or belly into thigh. Remember to push into that right leg, keeping the big toe joint, big toe mound engaged into the floor. Really helps to keep the hips even. And even in this position, if we're imprinting a little bit, just imagine you're engaging the muscles to create a neutral spine. Alright, now we'll start with a bit of the dynamic tension. So pushing the left leg out into the left hand, left arm pushing into that leg. We're creating a lot of dynamic tension. Make sure to keep that right foot engaged. Keep breathing. Now the leg is going to push a little bit stronger than the arm, and the whole leg is going to go out to the left side of our body. But we're still pushing back strongly with the left arm. We're pushing strongly into our big toe mound on the right foot to engage our hips, keep them level on the floor. Maintain that dynamic tension, but we're going to let the left hand push stronger than the left leg. First bring it back to center. And then going across the body line to the right side. Alright, maintaining that dynamic tension so that we're not just stretching across the body, but we're pushing, using the muscles to engage. Keeping the right big toe mount engaged to keep our hips level on the floor. Alright, now pushing stronger with the leg. Once again, bring it back to center. And release the hands, bring the leg back down. Take a couple breaths after the next one. Once again, drawing the left leg back up. This time we'll have the right finger crossed over top. Tap the thumbs together, bring it behind the knee. Once again, engaging that arm strength and elbow strength. Pull that leg towards your belly. Take a couple of deep belly breaths to stretch into that hip. Once again, we'll start with the dynamic tension, this time pushing the leg, left leg into the right arm pushing back into the left leg. Remember to keep pushing that right foot into the floor to keep our hips level. Gauge the toes on your left foot. Draw it in, leg in as close as you can. And now we'll let the leg win, pushing across to the right side. Maintaining that dynamic tension. You notice the difference between the left side and the right side. For me, it's the left side that's a lot weaker. I know for some of you, it's the right side. Just something to keep in mind if you're doing your personal practice. You can always double up on the weak side. Alright, now pushing stronger with the arm, bring it back, bring the leg back to center. And once again, pushing stronger with the arm, bring it to the left side, your leg to the left side of your body. Big breaths, keep breathing, keep pushing that right foot into the floor, keep your hips level. Now push stronger with that leg, bring it back to center. Let off the tension with the right arm, draw it in one more time, and then release the thigh up to perpendicular. We'll do a couple of shin lifts. And next time, just keep your leg up. screwdriver action. Once again, the rotation coming in the hip socket, not in the knees or in the ankle. And then we can bend that knee, bringing it into a figure 4. Once again, making sure to hook the ankle outside of the thigh. Draw those toes back, engage that foot to protect the knee. And if you want, you can pick up that right leg, cross the left finger over top of the right, and draw the right leg in towards you. Keep breathing, even though your right foot is in the air, imagine that you're still pushing that right toe mound into the floor, engaging those muscles. And release the hands, slowly release the right leg back, down to the floor, draw the left knee in over our chest. Do a couple more shin lifts on this side. Wow, how's everybody feel? That was a lot of hip work, huh? And we can let it go. Maybe we'll just do a mini Shavasana here before we have a bit more relaxed hip poses. Alright, we'll deepen our breath, wheel our toes and our fingers, drawing up our knees, roll off to the side, using some hand strength to come up to all fours. Alright, so we'll do a couple of cat-cow here. So in this we want to remember and practice our downward dog arm engagement. So make sure that the knuckle joints are down, especially here between the pointer finger and the thumb. Make sure that we have our upper arms rotating out and our lower arms rotating in. Tuck our toes, maybe knead the toes a couple times to really engage the toes. And then exhale, arch. Inhale into the cow. One more time, and we'll hold the arch. And then here we'll do some big breaths even while we keep the arch. Really stretching our back out. tops of our feet down, knees wide, and push back into a child's pose. It's helpful if you can't get your head all the way onto your forehead, onto the ground. You can make a fist with your left hand and cover it with the right. Bring it down that way. We can also bring the hands behind the back, grabbing the left hand with the right, coming down.
What does that do?
It just gets you into a bit of a different shoulder position. Also moves your body weight back a bit to help stretch the low back.
Switch hands?
You can't, this is one, generally in yoga they would say to hold your left hand with your right. I'm kind of a fan of switching it up. So yeah, if you're doing it, we can go ahead and switch hands.
So it does change the pressure on the back slightly in terms of...
Right, and there's also, you know, the way the energy flows on the right side versus the left side. Alright, so if your hands behind your back, we'll release them to the front. And then just slowly walk our hands back and sit up. And then bringing one hand out, we'll just roll onto our butt on one side, legs out in front. Alright, then we'll draw our legs into a wide cobbler pose, making more of a diamond than having them really close. We want a nice relax, so a nice diamond. And we'll go into a forward fold here. So it can be nice. You can bring your elbows into your knees, bring your hands to your forehead, and just have a very relaxed, curved back. Even in this, we want to keep our feet pushing together lightly. If you have the flexibility and the range, you can bring your hands out front, keep walking them forward, letting your head relax. Using our breath in this pose to imagine that we're lifting our whole back and letting it go farther forward. You can also use your hands to grab your feet, having your elbows resting on your shins. Use a little bit of tension, just a little bit of tension, to pull yourself forward, creating a bit of dynamic tension in the forward fold. But be gentle. We've done a lot of work on our hips. Alright, releasing any dynamic tension we've been creating. Putting your hands on the floor, walking it back slowly. Coming into a nice upright position. Take a deep breath, lift your chest. And then with the knees, your hands on the outside of your knees, gently draw your knees back together. And with our feet and hips, or feet and knees hip width apart, we'll roll back again. And we'll just do some fun twists here to release the hips before we go into Shavasana. So walk your knees to about a 90-degree angle. And then walk your feet out past the edge of your mat. And then point your feet out at an angle about the same direction as your knees. With your arms wide, we can just windshield wiper legs back and forth. We want to let the hips go free, but as much as we can, we want to try to engage the ribs and keep them towards the floor. So we're really getting the action in our hips. You can also really lift up the toe mounds, pushing into the heels. And this time when we come to the left, keep it to hold. Now even here, we want to make sure that we're engaging our ribs back into the floor. And you can almost feel like you're lifting that right leg up and away. Big exhale, engage the abs, and we'll windshield wiper a few more times. This time, take it to the right to hold. Once again, imagine that you're pushing those back ribs into the floor, especially the left side. Imagine that the left leg is pushing up and away. exhale, engage the abs, bring the legs back, windshield wiper a couple more times. Then bring the legs and the knees back to center. Bring the legs and the knees together. And we'll do one more double-legged windward mover. Then gently release the legs back down to the floor. Stretch out our spine and our neck one more time. So elbows down, hands up, lift your back away from your spine. Bring your hands to the back of your head and gently lift your head away from your neck, stretching out your neck. And then let your arms and your legs go for Shavasana. Integrate this practice. Alright, waking ourselves up from the inside, wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers. Take a big breath to draw our hands up overhead. Exhale and release. Draw the knees up. Roll off to our sides. Pushing ourselves up with arm strength. Coming into a comfortable seated position. Alright, just because we're going to switch the crossing from whatever side you go to naturally. Alright, bring our hands together in front of our hearts for an Om. Thank you for joining me today, continuing on this adventure and this practice. Gratitude to all my teachers, and gratitude to all the mothers out there. Namaste.